Hey, it's Zach here today, and today I'm going to go over my 2020 NFL mock draft and just some notes for this mock draft. I have no projected trades. I'm not projecting if teams are going to move up or down. It's too hard to do that, and trying to assess what teams would actually pay for picks, it's a little tough. And the picks I'm making are based on what I would do, so it's my opinion with the players available and the draft slot, what I would do if I was a team. And these picks, I'm making them based off of apparent value and need for the team. So make if a player is maybe worth a lot more than where they're picking, or if they really want to fill a positional need. That's what I'm going to be basing them off of. And to kick off the 2020 NFL mock draft, we have the Cincinnati Bengals on the clock. And with the first overall pick, Cincinnati Bengals select Joe Burrow, quarterback out of LSU. Rationale behind the pick here: Joe Burrow completed the greatest college football season, I think, of all time. Undefeated, Heisman Trophy winner, national championship, records galore. He displayed traits of a franchise quarterback: arm talent, leadership, accuracy, perform under pressure. He displayed everything. He's going to spark the Bengals and create a sense of buzz that, hey, you know what? They're on the up and up. They're going to be looking like a real team very soon. The Washington Redskins are now on the clock. And with the second pick, the Washington Redskins select Chase Young, defensive end out of Ohio State. And the rationale for the selection: Chase Young is the best available player on the board. Ron Rivera has also stated how he wants an impact player to come in day one and make a difference. Chase Young is exactly that. He's an elite player. He's arguably going to be the best player on their defense next season. And they're going to load up that defensive front. Having a great pass rush can really help your entire team. You're going to be getting after the quarterback quicker. Your corners don't have to cover for as long. It really is just a great way to speed up the development of your defense. It can be a very similar team to the 2019 49ers, potentially up front, as you have multiple former first-round picks, and then adding Chase Young could really push them over the top. Similar to how the Niners brought in Nick Bosa last season. I think that could be very similar. The Detroit Lions are now on the clock, and with the third overall pick, the Detroit Lions select Jeff Okudah, cornerback, Ohio State. And some rationale for this selection: I think this is a trade spot for multiple teams looking to trade up for a quarterback, such as, say, the Dolphins or the Chargers. Again, I'm not going to project any of those in this mock. But if not, they stay and take a starting caliber corner, which will shore up one of their biggest weaknesses, which was their pass defense from last season. And Okudah is arguably the best available player on the board. He's an elite talent, and he fills a huge need. I think this is a huge pick and huge win for the Detroit Lions. The New York Giants are now on the clock, and with the fourth overall pick, the New York Giants select Tristan Wirfs, offensive tackle, Iowa. Some rationale behind this selection: the Giants are taking the best available offensive tackle on their board. He's their pick. There's no need to settle for the third or fourth ranked offensive tackle. They're filling a need, and Wirfs is near the top of the board talent-wise. Wirfs is going to be able to protect Daniel Jones and help open the running lanes for Saquon Barkley, which are the New York Giants' last two first-round picks, their quarterback and running back. Help protecting that investment and helping them develop is going to be a huge piece for the New York Giants in 2020. The Miami Dolphins are now on the clock, and with the fifth overall pick, the Miami Dolphins select Tua Tagovailoa, quarterback, Alabama. Some rationale behind this selection: Miami is in great need of a quarterback, and Tua is sitting there as an elite quarterback prospect. It's a good match. Selecting Tua at 5 is quite a steal. It's a good value selection if he is viewed as a franchise quarterback in Miami. I think he is. Again, there are some real injury concerns, but Miami now has a young franchise quarterback to help lead their franchise in a new direction. I think it's a big win for both Tua and the Miami Dolphins. The Los Angeles Chargers are now on the clock, and with the sixth overall pick, the Los Angeles Chargers select Justin Herbert, quarterback, Oregon. Some rationale behind this selection: the Chargers are able to fill their quarterback need, bringing in Justin Herbert, who has all the physical traits you could want: arm, size, pocket awareness. He checks all the boxes. He could also benefit sitting and learning behind Tyrod Taylor for his rookie season. They've made claims that Tyrod's going to be their starter. They feel he is good enough and competent enough to start for them. I think having Justin Herbert learn and sit behind Tyrod for maybe not even his whole rookie season, but for at least the first few weeks, and then ushering in Herbert as a starter, could be very beneficial for him for his long-term NFL success. This is, again, great value finding your franchise quarterback at 6 overall. Carolina Panthers are now on the clock, and with the 7th overall pick, Carolina Panthers select Isaiah Simmons, linebacker, Clemson. Some rationale behind this selection: Simmons is great value at 7. He also fills a need in the middle of their defense. He's a great linebacker, if you want to call him that. He does everything well. They did lose Luke Kuechly, which is the great need of this selection. He's going to be able to jump in the middle of that defense and be their new leader. Simmons does everything well defensively. He can cover, he can tackle, he can rush the passer. He's a defensive weapon that the Panthers can employ to do whatever they need to on a week-to-week basis. Simmons is a new foundation for the Carolina Panthers defense. The Arizona Cardinals are now on the clock, and with the 8th overall pick, the Arizona Cardinals select Jedrick Wills, offensive tackle, Alabama. Rationale behind this selection: number one priority this offseason should be to build an offensive line to protect Kyler Murray. I think they land the second best tackle in the draft in Jedrick Wills. He's probably the best in pass protection, which is the main function of the Cardinal offense, is being able to pass the ball. It's keeping Kyler upright, being able to let him throw to his weapons should be the main objective for the offseason for the Cardinals, and is exemplified with the Jedrick Wills selection. The Jacksonville Jaguars are now on the clock, and with the 9th overall pick, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Derrick Brown, defensive tackle, Auburn. Rationale behind this selection: the Jaguars are dealing with a mass exodus of talent. Guys like Calais Campbell, AJ Boye, they're just letting everyone go. They traded a bunch of guys for late-round picks, so they're pretty much completely restarting their team. Derrick Brown is arguably the best available talent left on the board, and I don't think the Jaguars would wait a second to make this selection. He fills a need up front. He's a plug-and-play elite talent. He may be the Calais Campbell replacement, a big, imposing defensive lineman. I think Derrick Brown at the Jaguars is a win-win for both sides. The Jaguars are getting an elite player, and Brown's going to get the chance to play right away. The Cleveland Browns are now on the clock, and with the 10th overall pick, the Cleveland Browns select Andrew Thomas, offensive tackle, Georgia. The rationale behind the selection: I think the Browns, this is a definite trade-down scenario, as they could look to move a little bit further down in the first round, gather some more mid to late round picks, and select an offensive tackle of their choice. A little bit more of a project, I could say. But here they stand pat. They decided to take the best available tackle on their board, as Andrew Thomas fills a huge need for them at left tackle. They need to make sure that Baker Mayfield has a better environment to throw the football in, give him a better chance to succeed. Andrew Thomas is Cleveland's plug-and-play left tackle, most likely on week 1 of the 2020 season. The New York Jets are now on the clock, and with the 11th overall pick, the New York Jets select CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver, Oklahoma. The rationale behind this selection: Lamb is an elite talent to be left on the board at 11. He's arguably the number one receiver on the draft board. Lamb's going to give Sam Darnold a number one option in the passing game that he has not had in his young NFL career. CeeDee Lamb can create after the catch, which can really lift an offense, as he can make plays other receivers may not be able to. CeeDee Lamb will be an elite addition to New York Jets offense to really help develop Sam Darnold and be a better football team in 2020. The Las Vegas Raiders are now on the clock, and with the 12th overall pick, the Las Vegas Raiders select Henry Ruggs, wide receiver, Alabama. The rationale behind the selection: the Raiders have openly discussed adding a new young wide receiver to be the number one in their offense. So with their 12th pick, why not select Tyreek Hill without the off-field concerns? Ruggs has elite speed, but he's not just a speed guy. He's very good at routes. He has great hands. He's great after the catch. He's an elite number one option that Derek Carr can utilize in his offense, and he's going to really elevate the Raiders' entire team in 2020. The San Francisco 49ers are now on the clock, and with the 13th overall pick, the San Francisco 49ers select Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver, Alabama. The rationale behind the selection: this pick comes from the DeForest Buckner trade that happened earlier this offseason, and with the Niners getting Jerry Jeudy at 13 is an incredible steal. He's one of the best and safest players in this draft. He is a true number one option that the Niners can employ in their passing game. He's a great addition to the young receivers they have on the team. He's a great route runner. He has great hands, and he'll be able to be the number one option for Jimmy G going forward. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are now on the clock, and with the 14th overall pick, Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Mekhi Becton, offensive tackle, Louisville. So the rationale behind this selection: the window for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is now with Tom Brady. They're in a win-now mentality, so their main asset is keeping Tom Brady in the pocket clean, making sure he has time to deliver the football. So Becton may be a little bit of a reach here. There may be some better talent left on the board, but this fills a huge need on that offensive line, and again, it's all about putting Tom Brady in the best position to win right now. The Denver Broncos are now on the clock, and with the 15th overall pick, the Denver Broncos select Javon Kinlaw, defensive tackle, South Carolina. Rationale behind this selection: Kinlaw is great value at 15 for the Broncos. He's one of the best players left on the board. He's going to be an instant impact player for them, increasing their interior pass rush, which has become very crucial in today's NFL. Kinlaw may be the best player at his position as well. Him and Derek Brown are probably the top two interior defensive linemen. And for Denver, their defensive outlook is great this season. Pairing up Javon Kinlaw with Von Miller and Bradley Chubb on the edge, they're going to have a fierce defense in 2020. The Atlanta Falcons are now on the clock. And with the 16th overall pick, the Atlanta Falcons select C.J. Henderson, cornerback, Florida. The rationale behind this selection: Henderson projects to be a number one cornerback in the NFL. The Falcons being able to find him in the mid-first round is great value. Henderson also fills a need for the Falcons in their defensive backfield after cutting Desmond Trufant earlier this offseason. Henderson will be a plug-and-play DB that will be able to match up with opponents' number one wide receivers on a week-to-week basis. The Dallas Cowboys are now on the clock. And with the 17th overall pick, the Dallas Cowboys select K'Lavon Chaisson, defensive end, LSU. Rationale behind this selection: Chaisson will add some significant talent up front to the Cowboy defense. Pairing him in their defensive front alongside DeMarcus Lawrence will increase their pass rush. With that increase in pass rush and getting after the quarterback, it will reduce the stress on their defensive backs. As having lots of new starters, it'll make their job significantly easier having that increase in pass rush. Chaisson is a great addition to the Cowboys team for 2020. The Miami Dolphins are now on the clock. And with the 18th overall pick, the Miami Dolphins select Xavier McKinney, safety, Alabama. Rationale behind this selection: this pick comes from the Miami Dolphins trade during the 2019 season, sending Minkah Fitzpatrick to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Safety generally isn't a premium draft pick, but in this case, the Dolphins get the best safety in the draft in McKinney. He's going to add a lot of talent to the back end of their defense where they're rebuilding, and he could become a new leader on the defensive end. Las Vegas Raiders are now on the clock, and with the 19th overall pick, the Las Vegas Raiders select Jalen Johnson, cornerback, Utah. Rationale behind this selection: the Raiders have expressed interest in adding to their secondary, with specific interests and rumors suggesting that Jalen Johnson is the one that they've zeroed in on. Johnson would be a great addition to the Raider defense. He'll help shore up that cornerback group and become a leader on that team. A young leader, but someone that has elite talent and can help shore up a weakness on their team. The Jacksonville Jaguars are now on the clock. And with a 20th overall pick, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Christian Fulton, cornerback, LSU. Rationale behind this selection: this pick does come from the Jalen Ramsey trade, as the Jaguars traded their star cornerback to the LA Rams midway through the 2019 season. Christian Fulton will act as Ramsey's replacement in their defense as Ramsey left the team. Fulton shows traits of a top cover corner in the NFL. And in the Jaguars' case, Fulton will be able to fill a need on the back end of their defense. He will also add another young building block to the rebuilding Jacksonville Jaguars. The Philadelphia Eagles are now on the clock. And with the 21st pick, the Philadelphia Eagles select Kenneth Murray, linebacker, Oklahoma. Rationale behind this selection: Murray is the top-ranked linebacker on the board. He helps fill a need on their roster and has great value at 21, grabbing arguably the best inside linebacker on the board. He's plug-and-play at inside linebacker for Philadelphia this coming season. After losing starters like Nigel Bradham, he'll be an instant impact player on their defense. The Minnesota Vikings are now on the clock. And with the 22nd pick, the Minnesota Vikings select Justin Jefferson, wide receiver, LSU. Rationale behind this selection: so this draft pick comes from the Vikings trading Stephon Diggs to the Buffalo Bills earlier this offseason. With Justin Jefferson, the Vikings are getting a solid receiver that they can add to their receiving corps alongside Adam Thielen. Jefferson has the potential to fill the role that Stephon Diggs left. He's also a cheaper alternative, as they're paying him cheaply for 4 years on his rookie deal and as well have that 5th-year option. So they can attempt to fill other needs later in the draft, but right here they're getting an impact offensive playmaker that they can really utilize this coming season. The New England Patriots are now on the clock. And with the 23rd pick, the New England Patriots select Patrick Queen, linebacker, LSU. Rationale behind this selection: at 23rd overall, Patrick Queen is elite value. He's one of the top inside linebackers left on the board, and he also fills a huge need in the Patriots defense. He's going to have to try and replace snaps left by Kyle Van Noy and Jamie Collins as they left during free agency. Queen, who's an elite athlete, is a plug-and-play defender. He has great range all over the field, to be an instant defensive playmaker in the New England system. The New Orleans Saints are now on the clock, and with the 24th pick, the New Orleans Saints select Jeff Gladney, cornerback, TCU. Rationale behind this selection: Gladney fills a need in the Saints secondary right away, after some key members departed in the offseason. Gladney can battle for one of the starting spots opposite Marshawn Lattimore in the back end of their defense. Gladney figures to be great in man coverage, and that should suit him in the Saints defense. Gladney will become a fixture in the back end of the Saints defense for right now and for the future. The Minnesota Vikings are now on the clock, and with the 25th pick, the Minnesota Vikings select Zach Bond, linebacker, Wisconsin. Rationale behind this selection: Bond will make an immediate impact on the defensive front for the Minnesota Vikings. Either as a rotational or starting role, he'll be able to contribute right away. He sets the edge, he gets after the ball carrier, and he gets to the quarterback. He makes a lot of plays on defense. The Vikings are going to need some of those plays as they lost quite a few members of their defense this past season, especially defensive end Everson Griffin up front. Bond will be a breath of fresh air to the Vikings defense for 2020. The Miami Dolphins are now on the clock, and with the 26th pick, the Miami Dolphins select Josh Jones, offensive tackle, Houston. Rationale behind this selection: this pick comes from the Laramie Tunsil trade the Dolphins made early in the 2019 season. This pick almost ushers in as a replacement for the player they traded away, Laramie Tunsil, the left tackle. Jones may not be the best available player, but his positional value at left tackle should be enough for the Dolphins to select him here. He helps fill a need, and again, they're trying to rebuild, so they want to build that offensive line from the ground up. Jones should be a good project and a good developmental player for the Dolphins moving forward. The Seattle Seahawks are now on the clock, and with the 27th pick, the Seattle Seahawks select Cesar Ruiz, offensive line, Michigan. Rationale behind this selection: he's the best available interior offensive lineman on the board. For the Seahawks, he fills a huge need up front on that offensive line, which has been a weak link for quite a few years with Russell Wilson at quarterback. So with this selection, they're aiming to protect Russell Wilson as he's the main contributor on their offense. Keeping him clean and upright in the pocket is the best for their offensive success, along with improved run blocking for their running backs. Ruiz fills an immediate need and should be a future building block on that offensive line. The Baltimore Ravens are now on the clock, and with the 28th pick, the Baltimore Ravens select Yetur Gross-Matos, defensive end, Penn State. Rationale behind this selection: he's a high upside pick with loads of potential and room to grow. He's in a great spot with the Ravens here as they have loads of great defenders up front, so he has lots of players to learn from and sit behind and learn. He's also going to work in as more of a situational pass rusher, I would expect, this season, and have his role expand in the future. He's a player the Ravens can look at as an impact situational pass rusher right now and a future building block on the defensive front. This is a win now and a win later pick for the Ravens. The Tennessee Titans are now on the clock, and with the 29th pick, the Tennessee Titans select A.J. Epinesa, defensive end, Iowa. Rationale behind this selection: the Titans are getting great value with Epinesa here at 29. He's one of the best available players on the board, and he slides to them here in this mock. He had some talent up front where they're lacking as they've traded some veterans such as Jarrell Casey to try and free up some cap room. So you're adding a cheaper, younger player with Epinesa here to your defensive front. I would expect Epinesa to be their starting 3-4 defensive end next season and add some youth to the Titans defense. The Green Bay Packers are now on the clock, and with the 30th pick, the Green Bay Packers select Brandon Ayuk, wide receiver, Arizona State. Rationale behind this selection: Ayuk possibly may serve as the wide receiver 2 for Aaron Rodgers in the Packer offense this coming season. He's a round 1 caliber receiver, and he's sliding to the end of the first round due to a very strong wide receiver class, which will see many names go on the second day of the draft. Packers should be all in to win with their current roster, and giving Aaron Rodgers more weapons is only going to help him try and win games. Ayuk gives him a young, talented receiver that he can pair with Devontae Adams and give them a nice dynamic duo going forward. The San Francisco 49ers are now on the clock, and with the 31st pick, the San Francisco 49ers select Austin Jackson, offensive tackle, USC. Rationale behind this selection: Jackson projects to be a starting caliber left tackle in the NFL. He may not have to start right away, though, as the Niners still have Joe Staley, their longtime serving left tackle, still on the team. Jackson will act as an investment pick, as once Joe Staley either declines in production or he decides to retire, the Niners will have their left tackle of the future already in-house. He'll be able to develop, learn the game, and mature as a person and a player while learning from one of the best, Joe Staley. This was a smart investment pick by the Niners, securing their right now and their future. The Kansas City Chiefs are now on the clock, and with the 32nd pick, the Kansas City Chiefs select A.J. Terrell, cornerback, Clemson. Rationale behind this selection? Well, the Super Bowl champs, they just reload. After maintaining almost all of their starters, they just need to add a couple young pieces to really shore up their roster. The secondary is still one of the weakest points of their team, so why not shore it up with a young, potential number one caliber corner in A.J. Terrell? Adding him to the back end of their defense, especially with guys like Tyrann Mathieu, will hopefully make this weakness more of a strength. The Chiefs have a real shot to repeat as Super Bowl champions, again, as maintaining almost all their starters, adding some young talent. They have a real shot to repeat this season in 2020. And with that last selection, that will conclude my 2020 NFL mock draft. Again, I didn't do any trades. I didn't do any projections. I just made the picks for each team that I would make if I was running the team. Thank you for watching. See you next time.